This week, it's a Q&A episode answering your questions about post-processing. Hi everybody, I'm Scott Davenport. Welcome to In Post. Before I get into today's Q&A episode, very quickly, San Diego Coastline Workshops for 2017, dates have been announced, and registration will open up soon. If you're interested, head on over to my website, get on the interest list. I send out the invites in the order that folks join the interest list. So if you want to come to San Diego and do some shooting with me at the ocean, head on over there right now, get yourself signed up, and then come back and watch the video. I'll still be here when you get back. So today we're going to do questions and answers. I got a couple of them that I think are very interesting for the general public. And so without further ado, let's move into the first one. First question is from Roger, and he asks, what's the right approach to removing some unwanted object from your photo? Well, the long answer is I have an entire video course on this very topic. But the shorter answer is it does depend on the object you're removing, but you're going to be using the clone and stamp tool in whatever tool you're using, or a retouch brush or things like that. And Lightroom has options, Photoshop has options, On1 Layers has options. They all have their strengths and weaknesses as far as tools. But I thought I'd show pretty quickly here one of the main approaches you'd use to when you're removing something. So let's say I want to get rid of this street lamp that is here. So I'm in Lightroom, so let's zoom in this area. And this is a relatively easy removal because there's a whole lot of similar background. And this, where it meets the bridge here, this pole meeting the bridge, that's the only challenge point. So we can do a little divide and conquer. I'm going to bring up the spot healing tool, Q key, and I'm going to switch over to clone because I want to make a very crisp copy. So I'm going to click where I want things to be removed. And Lightroom's going to choose something. And in this case, it did a very admirable job. I might make this circle a little bigger so that some of those water stains and rust or whatever that is from where the street lamp would normally be would not be there. And I'll adjust that point just a little bit so I get that smooth looking line. That looks really nice. I'm going to zoom back out. And now I'll switch back into heal mode and take one more big sweep over the rest of this pole, and let's see how it does. So Lightroom did a very poor job choosing a spot there. I don't know why it would have done such a great job on the first one and so poorly on the second one. We'll take this candy cane shaped kind of thing there, and if I hit the Q key, we zoom back in, we really can't see any type of artifacting there. It did a pretty great job, and a little tiny cleanup to do here. But that's the fundamental approach. The object you want to remove, figure out how you can split it up into a few pieces and remove the individual pieces, because that'll be an easier job than trying to wipe away something in its entirety, and the tools will struggle when you give it too much to try and remove in one go. Our next question is from Steve, and he's asking about On1 Layers and what's the difference between a stamped layer and a merged layer. Now, the best way to do this is to look at an example. I've got a photo here where I want to do some type of classic tourist removal. I have two shots of the same scene. This is my top layer we're looking at now. And here's the bottom layer. So we got the dog that's come in, but the people are gone. In the top layer, the dog's gone, but the people are here. And so we can do some very basic masking. Grab my masking brush. I'm very sloppily right now. I'm just going to get rid of those people. There's probably some fine tuning to do there, but this is masking through my top layer to show the nice clean waterfall. The dog never gets shown up because I'm only revealing this area here, right? O key. This is the only place I've punched through on the mask. Now, to the question, stamped layer versus merged layer, and when do you want to use both? Well, first, what is a stamped layer? A stamped layer will take all of the visible layers in your layer stack and create a new layer combining everything. So if I go to layer and I say new stamped layer, I'm going to end up with a third layer on the layer stack that is the combination of the two beneath it. So if I turn off my bottom two layers, I have the combination of a clean waterfall and no dog from those two bottom layers, and I've created a new third layer. So this is what a stamped layer does. Now, when do you want to use this? Mainly if you think you might have to go back to these other layers to do other work. Let's remove that, turn back on these. Now, what's a merged layer do? I highlight my top layer and I can choose merge layer. Merge layer is going to take the layer I've selected, and I'll tap it now, and it's going to squash it down to the next layer beneath it and combine those two things into a single layer. Now, looking at the photo, I have the same result as my new stamped layer. What I don't have is the composite individual layers beneath it. I don't have those component layers anymore. So if I were to continue doing stylization work from here on in, I would not have the ability to go back and revisit my masking or decide that I wanted to do something a little different. I would probably need to go back to my original photos and start from scratch. So stamped layer creates a new layer, keeping all of the component layers available, and a merge layer squashes things down like it suggested, merges them together and makes a single layer. The only disadvantage really to using stamped layers, well, maybe there's two. One is if you've got a lot of layers and you're starting to try to manage all those layers, that can get a little unwieldy. The second is file sizes. So every layer in your photo, in your PSD document or your TIFF, that's going to occupy a lot of space. And if you're using large camera sizes, these are, I think these ones are pretty reasonable. These are like 16 megapixel images. But if you've got a more modern camera, 30 megapixel, 40 megapixel, some of these behemoth 50 megapixel cameras, every one of those layers has got 50 megapixels worth of stuff. That's going to add up fast, and it would not surprise me if you start having file sizes that are approaching 2 gigabytes, 3 gigabytes in size when you have lots of different layers. So that's one piece to think about. But really, I like to approach it from, do I need to keep around those component layers because I think I'm going to have to go and tidy up and tweak things? And it's kind of an encouragement to get it right the first time, then merge everything down and move on with life. And that wraps it up for this week in Post. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A. Please keep those questions coming in. You can contact me directly through my website, comments on the video, however you like to get a hold of me. Your questions are invaluable to the show, just giving ideas to do things here on the channel, but also that you make me think about my photography. You're certainly helping me out because I have to stop and think, why do I do this? Why do I do that? It makes me a better photographer. And hopefully my answers are helping you become a better photographer as well. And that's the whole point. We both get something out of this, win-win, and everybody gets to improve your craft together. Well, until next time, my name is Scott Davenport, and happy shooting. Those are our questions for this week. I guess the tip of the week is that, do I have a tip? No, I don't have a tip. I've got no tip. It's a good thing I'm not a waiter.